Hey there, welcome to another Sunday Tips Over Tea. This is Nicole, your host. We are going to talk to Miss Elizabeth Kipp today about the healing power of forgiveness. A lot of times we think of forgiveness as forgiving someone else who did something to us, but we tend to forget how forgiving ourselves for doing something or not doing something we thought we should can also take a toll on our health. So if you've been struggling with forgiveness in any way, I want to encourage you. Grab your tea, grab a friend, grab a notebook, grab some self-compassion, and listen in. With Miss Elizabeth Kipp today. I'm so excited to be speaking with you. Thank you for joining the show.
Thanks so much, Nikki. It's great to be here.
You're welcome. So you've got a lot of background with chronic pain and trauma. And what are some of your other yoga modalities and things? What is some of your background? And I'm gonna just let you go with that.
Thank you. So really my life training has been in chronic pain just from, the University of Hard Knocks. Mm-hmm. And I finally, after decades, cleared the chronic pain that was in my body, which was also in my mind, of course. Mm-hmm. And I always said, if I ever, because I had so much help, when I was ill, and I was like, it was kind of like, it was if at first, and then it was when I heal from this, I'm going to do whatever I can to help others, so I help others with us. My really overriding thing is chronic pain management, stress management, and underneath all of that is ancestral clearing, yoga, meditation, the trauma work, of course, anything that supports, helps us to clear this chronic pain experience. Chronic pain being any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Any pain, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, any of it, the body can't tell, the brain can't tell the difference. It all sends the same signal, it hurts. So it includes all those different kinds of experiences. And I wanted to talk about forgiveness today because holding a grudge is another kind of chronic pain. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's something that I grappled with. So this is how I got into ancestral clearing in the first place, was my experience with holding a grudge.
I love that. And we will definitely get into that. I just want to point out, if anyone was ever confused, like what is chronic pain, I appreciate that you share that definition. 15 days or more within a month, whatever the kind of pain is.
15 days or more over a 3-month period.
Over a 3-month period.
For 3 months or more. Yeah. 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more is chronic.
15 out of 30 for 3 months or more is chronic. Got it. I appreciate that. And I love that you mentioned that it doesn't have to be physical pain, because a lot of times people only associate pain with physical pain. We don't really consider, we know that when sometimes if our emotions are like crazy, it feels like pain, but we never really thought about it. Most people, we don't think about it in that sense. Physical, any discomfort or pain that is 15 days or more, 3 months in a row for 30 days. So I appreciate that you brought that up. And I'm excited to talk about forgiveness because a lot of times we don't realize how holding grudges and holding things in really affects us. So tell me, how did you realize that part of your healing required forgiveness and releasing of that grudge?
Many, many years ago, I loaned a family member quite a substantial amount of money, and we wrote up legal agreements, to cover any kind of default, et cetera. And the whole thing fell apart, and I never got my money back. And I was like, I was hurt, and I felt like I was kind of just not valued and discarded, and kind of a lot of negative things. Mm-hmm. But there wasn't anything I could do about it, so I kind of just pushed it aside and kept going with my life. And every once in a while I'd come back and go, like that. Mm-hmm. And this went on for like 10 years. And I was sitting one day I worked for my son as an editor on this platform he used to have called The Daily Love. And I was working, and it was all spiritual, right? And I'm working with these blogs. I was the editor, and I stopped for a minute and I went, "Oh, Elizabeth, you're actually carrying a grudge, right, around this issue." And I'm like, I stopped and I'm like, I don't do that. That's not what apparently I do, right? And I was like, in that moment, it was like this sacred bottom, of suffering. And in that moment, I was just like, I have to do work around this. So I did the work, and the strangest, and I really did kind of energetically let it go. And the most interesting, and I never called the family member about it. I didn't say it to anybody. I just did the work, and I went on with the editing. That was my job. And 3 days later, that family member called me, sent me a big check, and we're on our way to resolving the situation today, which is phenomenal. I didn't ask I just did that. This is really important to understand. I did the energetic work on the inside, and it had a repercussion between me and the family member. This stuff's really important. It's not the first time that this happened that I've observed something like that, but so profound, right? And I stopped suffering, right? Which was the thing I was really trying to get to, was I stopped suffering, but also it cleared the space between the two of us. And it was just profound to me. 2 years later, I met my ancestor. I experienced ancestral clearing, which is 80% of that is forgiveness. And I was like, oh my God, I found my calling.
I love it. I love it. And I've seen that. I've seen it, and then I've had people share, like when they let something go, how the person, if it's tied to a person, like something shifts in that energetic tie, so to speak, and it breaks down a bridge or a wall that was invisibly there. You could feel it though, right? Like energy wise, you can feel it, and you can also tell when you clear it. So what are some of the things that you did to break that energetic connection, so to speak?
I love that question. I actually, for me, you can't just say to me, like, let it go. That doesn't work for me. I have this science background, and I'm a Capricorn, and everything's got to have order. There's got to be a process. And I actually developed a process, which I'll share with you. And then I put it into this as a major teaching into this program that I have called 40 Days of Forgiveness. It's a 40-day practice around forgiveness. And this is the teaching. First of all, the first step in letting go is just presence, right? Come in, not the past, not the future, the present moment. And then the next thing I was like, what meaning am I making of what happened? What's the story I'm telling myself? And I took responsibility for the story I was telling myself, right? So very important piece there. It's not blaming the other person. It's like, I'm taking ownership of my experience.
Yeah.
I'm not condoning what happened.
Right.
I'm just taking ownership of my side of that street. Right? Then I accepted my humanness in terms of just, I'm really pissed off. I'm really sad underneath sorry, pardon my French. I'm really upset. And underneath all of that, I'm really sad. And I feel like, so I was just feeling the feelings that go with the story.
Yeah.
Right. And not pushing them away, because I kind of have an old pattern of like pushing anything uncomfortable, like out of the picture, right? As much as possible. So I didn't do that. Then I became willing to forgive. Now, I didn't say I forgave. I said I became willing. Just, can I even be willing? Right. And because I had been tied up in this thing and it felt like unforgivable at some level, I enlisted the help of my higher power, creator, because It's got a lot more power than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my next step was, could you please help me find my way through this, right?
Yeah.
Then I dropped my judgments about the situation. This is bad. All the things that, this person is bad because he did this bad thing or whatever, all the judgments.
Mm-hmm.
Then I let go of my uncertainty, fear of uncertainty of like, well, what will happen if I let go of this grudge? Like, what will happen? Will it get worse? Will it get better? I mean, he's a chronic pain sufferer, and I was still in chronic pain at the time I was doing started this work. Fear of the unknown was a big piece because my projection was, oh, it might get worse, right? I didn't want that. So I had to let that go, right? Yeah. Again, appeal to a higher power to help. And then again, coming back to the beginning, living in the present. Also, like, part of the responsibility piece is like remembering that I have a choice. Mm-hmm. This is my life and the way I'm reacting to it, unless it's a pure full-on trauma response, which is, we don't have a lot of, that's at the back of the brain. That's an automatic kind of safety thing. Yeah. Not that. This is, this is mind executive thinking kind of logic. So that's the process that I used, and it works. It works. I had a little meditation that I did every day. Some of it, at the root of all that, Nikki, it wasn't so much about the other person. It was about forgiving myself for maybe misjudging the situation, or for having a grudge in the first place, or mishandling the situation, so there was a lot of layers to this piece, and it's just the same meditation every day, but it was a meditation just kind of focusing on that issue, and the layers would reveal themselves and release during the meditation each day. So that's why a 40-day practice is pretty cool. Yeah. And then in the end, I came up with this, the 5 forgivenesses of being human. Mm-hmm. And here they are. I'll share them with you real quick. Yeah. First, forgive the Creator who created all and yourself when you feel separated from the Creator. Here we forgive the Creator of all that is, whatever we choose to call this original creative energy, and ourselves for the sense of separation we feel. We don't know where we begin and it ends, and ultimately we're not separable, but we get confused, right? Okay. Second, forgiveness. Forgive your karma as it is. We're born with certain qualities and conditionings, gifts and challenges. And so, we forgive for that. Third, forgiveness. Forgive the constant change in the environment and the cause and effect that arise because of it. Fourth, forgiveness. Forgive the physical capacity of the body and living in paradox. Forgive the limitation that we experience. And through divinity, we're also infinite human beings. So we're living finite and infinite at the same time, which is this paradox. Mm-hmm. Fifth, forgiveness. Forgive yourself for having to learn life by living it. Right? Yeah. Right after the five forgivenesses, there are 5 gratitudes that match them. Mm-hmm. So first, gratitude, forgiveness that we're not separated from Creator. Second, forgiveness. Forgive us that we have karma that we can learn to overcome. Mm-hmm. Third, gratitude that change exists, that nothing's permanent except the eternal soul, right? Mm-hmm. And awareness. Mm-hmm. And fourth, forgiveness. Fourth, gratitude is thank goodness for paradox. It makes life interesting. And fifth, gratitude is thank goodness we can learn to live life by living it. Yeah. So that's kind of what I wanted to bring in today. It's been a powerful practice. Again, the ancestral clearing piece is 80% of that practice is forgiveness. And sometimes that whole thing about grudges, where did that come from for me? Well, I watched my mother have a grudge, and I watched her father, and I've watched it it's not a statement against them. it was a frequency in the lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And when we use ancestral clearing, it helps us to clear that part of the burden, so that we can then better see our purpose on earth.
I love that. Some things that aren't really talked about a lot is the fact that we inherit some things like that, right? Like, of course, people, they recognize when they get some personality traits from family members and things like that. But having that grudge, we think it's a learned behavior. It can be too, and especially if it like is inherited and learned, like you can actually see it. Because like if your mom didn't really display it, if the parents didn't display it, it doesn't mean that you still wouldn't have dealt with it just because it is a chronic thing within the lineage. So it's interesting that you share that, and I'm glad you did, because that's an awareness that some people may not have. So it's very interesting. So 40 days. I love that. And do you have, is this a virtual workshop, or you do it live, or?
It's actually an email product that's available on my website, on the shop on my website. And what it is you get an email every day on one aspect of forgiveness. It's a blog on that aspect. And then there's a forgiveness prayer that goes with it. There's a famous quote, and there's a little graphic. And the thing about that program that I developed was, I was like, I'm going to do this thing. And it took me 18 months to come up with, I ended up with 41 different forgiveness things. The 41st is a bonus. And I was like, I'd get to maybe 18, and I was like, I can't do anymore. and then the universe would come in and give me an assignment in forgiveness. And that would be number 19. And that's how it took me 18 months, and all those, every time I kind of got stuck, I'd get a lesson in another kind of, it was hilarious. So
it's funny about that, that you mentioned that, when, people say, be careful what you ask for. Like, you're going to get a lesson in it. Are you ready for it? Be prepared. So I can definitely appreciate that you sacrificed yourself for us.
I think the creator has a hell of a sense of humor,
Yeah. You want to help my people? Okay, here you go. Let me teach you how you can best teach them. So, I love that. I love the fact that not only did you come to this, you're like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, but you remained open to receive the lessons, and then you bottled those lessons up in a way that you can share with other people. Because a lot of times we'll learn stuff, and we'll not necessarily realize like what we did, or we don't really capture it to share and pass on to others. So I appreciate that you do that. But of course, you said you're Capricornian, things have to be, it probably comes natural to you.
Part of my nature. I added in a Facebook group so that everybody that's been in the program can go and, discourse there. And then also like I said, there's a 40-day meditation that goes with it, so they can ground their practice into that, and it's had good reviews. So anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I feel like there's so much perspective of separation out there in the world today. That I just feel like it's a really important topic.
Yeah. And
we can in a time of great fear and this perception of separation, we can really start carrying grudges. So it's not to do that if we can't possibly help it. The energy, it's not helping, the energy of the planet at all.
Exactly. Yeah. That's another good point. Just in some of the science, you can measure the energy from the heart. Like, I think, was it up to 3 feet around the whole body? I believe. Don't quote me on that.
12 feet in front.
12 feet.
Okay. Maybe it's 6 feet all the way around. I heard 12 feet. So
okay,
but it's a lot.
Yeah, right. And so, which is why you can walk into a room and you can feel like the energy, right? And then even across continents and states, like even when I go on Clubhouse, you can enter a room on Clubhouse and you can feel the energy in that room. And it's so interesting. So I like that you shared that, holding on to that, like it's radiating out from you and people are feeling that, and its energy is transferable. It can be contagious. Like, so if we can definitely work on our inner energy, it can help the whole world, just one person at a time.
Exactly. It's another, you're speaking to the same principle. There's no separation. There's no separation. It's not me and you. It's not us and them. We're all one.
Yeah.
Even though our fears and our mind seems to think it's otherwise, it's really not the truth.
Yeah. So I love that you pointed that out. That's a very important concept, because my mom loves to call. What calls? I will give her a call back.
Nice ring. I like that.
Thank you. Thank you. I will be able to cut that part out. And starting from here. So what I can appreciate is that a lot of, especially the Western culture, we don't talk about energy a lot, right? And how it affects each other and how it affects you and how our thoughts affect us energetically, physically, and how we can get sick from not, like, just physical illness, mental illness, from holding on to things like that, the emotions and the negative or draining emotions, So I'm really appreciative that you bring that up, because it's not something that's really considered. And I also like that you made a point to say, forgiving doesn't mean condoning, because a lot of times people think, if I forgive, then that means I'm saying okay to whatever happened. And no, that's not the point of forgiveness. Forgiveness is to be able to clear yourself, right? Like, break that connection so that because I imagine and I just want to point out to anybody who's watching this live or catches this later, if you notice, and I say this all the time, I usually say emotion wise, but if you are having issues like abdominal issues, for instance, your health is good, like you're eating healthy, you're getting enough sleep, and your stress is low, and you're still having issues, it's probably something you're holding on to. So I like that you mentioned that too. So
this is where we would bring the ancestral clearing piece in as well. And the ancestral clearing not only looks at the lineage, it looks at anything that's leaving an imprint from the past. So even my past in this lifetime can have an imprint on what's showing up in the present. And we work on that stuff. And of course, from a trauma perspective, the body keeps the score, as Bessel van Gogh said.
Good book.
Right? And that's that's well known in the trauma community and maybe in a lot of the wellness space, but it's not well known in the general public.
Yeah.
And so if people understand how their physical symptoms could really be because of something a story in the mind that's holding on to something that's negative, that's significant. And in chronic pain, the reason I said, that 3-month period where 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more, after that 3 months, over that 3-month period, the brain is changed by chronic pain. And anybody here that is experienced chronic pain will know these symptoms: brain fog, I can't think straight, I can't remember stuff, and an increased negative voice in the mind. Right? I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I can't do this, or it's all their fault. Like any of that negative stuff that's increased by chronic pain. So we want to do everything we can to clear that stuff.
Yeah.
And in the brain, I couldn't believe when I saw this research. In the brain, negative thoughts are like Velcro. They're really sticky. And positive thoughts, like positive affirmations,
Yeah.
they're like Teflon. They just slide right off.
Oh my goodness.
And when I heard that, when I read that, I was like, I went back into my biology. I'm like, what's the evolutionary advantage of that? Because there's got to be a reason, you know.
Yeah.
And I realized that we're wired to keep ourselves safe, and
Yep.
so in the DNA that we think negative first for new things. We're like, no, for the first thing until when it's something new, until we actually see that we're safe. Mm-hmm. So it has a that negative bias has a helpful, being sticky versus sliding. That makes sense. If it's just in chronic pain, it gets really accentuated, and we got to clean it up.
Yeah. We're not saying to have negative feelings, or what is it? Depleting emotions and feelings is a bad thing, because it helps. It points to things you need to address or work on. Well, we just want to make sure you don't create a chronic pattern behind it, because it can. As I shared that before with me, because I spent most of my life depressed. It was hard to stop being depressed, right? I really had to work at changing my brain very intentionally. So, and that was just, I was chronically depressed. So,
congratulations. That's really courageous work. And you're having to rebuild. You're not just rewiring you're actually rebuilding your biochemistry as well. It's a whole mind, body, spirit system. You can't separate those three, and when we do this kind of work, we're working on all. So well done, because that's not easy.
It's not. It's not at all. So I went, and having gone through that, I share that with people who are struggling. They're like, why can't I? I'm like, it's not going to happen overnight, for one, because you're literally having to rebuild all the chemicals in your body and all of your responses to things. So I appreciate that you are bringing this to folks, and I will have your contact information in the description so people know how to reach you and hop onto this program, this email program, and the Facebook group and everything. So it's a beautiful thing that you've committed yourself to, and you actually got done and put out there for people, because we need that. We really need that.
Thanks so much, Nikki. I really appreciate being able to talk to you again and to bring the work forward. It's I think it's really part of any kind of a basic clearing work we do. We need to do this piece. So yeah, absolutely. So, as of course, 30 minutes goes by quick, so we have a few minutes left. Is there anything that you would like to share? Any last tips that you'd like to point out, or anything like that for anyone who's catching us while we're talking, or catches the video later? Feel free to share. Well, I think the biggest challenge for me was, because I actually went there, I challenged myself around the forgiveness, was like, how can I forgive the unforgivable? Which I had to define.
Right.
What is it that I define as, this is not, this is the line. If you go over this, it's unforgivable. I won't do that. And I actually spent time working with that. And again, I realized it was my judgment and my story, and not condoning whatever the situation or the person did. It's not about that, but it is about the energy that I'm holding that's making me sick ultimately. That I'm like this, you know. My stand is like, and my righteous indignation around injustice would be like, that would be a growing edge. Maybe, I mean, it's still, for me, I'm still amazing at what I let a lot of stuff go, but that'll get my ire up. Indignation and injustice in the world, I just, and like, that's not really healthy for me. But it's part of the humanness that I talked about. So we have to love ourselves through the work. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of my other favorite pieces that you bring up is personal responsibility for your perspective of it and for your response to it, whatever it may be. And it's not easy taking responsible for, for your own thoughts. Like I thought this, it's not easy, it's not fun, but it's so necessary. And absolutely that compassion, that self-compassion towards yourself while you're working through everything and being accepting of yourself. That second K in Nikki stands for kindness. Because because as I was working through that stuff myself, like I had to be okay with not being okay with things. We always want to downplay anger and frustration and all the depleting emotions, but like I said earlier, like those are okay. They're pointing out things to you. It's just the way you handle them and trying to work through them as soon as possible so it doesn't become chronic and start messing with your body any more than it already is when you're going through it. So I really appreciate that.
Well said. Well
Thank
said.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you. You've touched on a thing that is so dear to me. So I'm glad that we got to share this with people. And I look forward to hearing just more success stories from people going through your 40-day program. Thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I really appreciate this platform where you're spreading the word from all kinds of people and how they're bringing it to life,
Yeah.
So I'm very, very appreciative of the space that you're creating for all of us.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's definitely my pleasure. I just want people to know they can heal themselves a lot more than they think they can. So awesome. And go ahead.
We've said this before. Doctors can stitch up a wound and they can set a bone, but they can't tell the body how to heal. Yeah. They can give us ideal circumstances. We can set those up, but it's the body that does the healing. And when we recognize that, we empower ourselves in a stronger way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yay. That is a good way to explain this whole channel. Empowering ourselves to heal. I love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you everyone for tuning in, whether it be live or later. Please share this because this word needs to definitely get out. Not an easy topic, but it is absolutely worth it. And when you come out on the other side of it, you realize how freaking strong you really are and how you feel more empowered and more confident in being able to handle more. Because, this is only we're layered. We have layers of stuff. So be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself. That is something else too. I know we got to go, but you mentioned how it takes time. And so just reminding folks that self-compassion, kindness is really important because it's not going to happen overnight. So, all right. Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks so much, Nikki. My pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We will see you next time. Take care. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the bell so you'll be notified anytime we upload a new video or go live. And as always, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post it in the comments. We're always checking that. In the meantime, have a great rest of your